AD 100 to AD 315 is the second portion of the church. So the first portion of the church is establishing of the church, growing of the church, making the church to what it is. So as we always say, our forefathers, the higher rabbis, the early fathers, the early church fathers who established the church and its doctrine, its set in the systems, basically the apostles themselves. So now, practically all those apostles are dead. Everyone's dead. Who's left is the only one is John, who's going to give everybody their letters, and then that's after him, he's gone. There's nobody else as far as the first, 11 or 12, if you want to count Paul, which was Saul, in them. So this period is a persecution period. This is what the church, and this is all the movies that we ever seen growing up in the Romans, torturing the Christians and killing them and so on and so forth, in the, feeding them to the lions and whatnot. All the things that we have seen in our lives or heard about, persecuted church, this is the era of it. 100 to about 315, until the Constantine came, and that's when everything changed. We're going to get to that next week, and we're going to see the detail of that, how that happened, and how the church age changed. You see, right now we're studying the church age of the persecution. Now, another very important key. In this time of this period, there were 10 different Caesars. 10 different Caesars in this period. And one worse than the other. One worse than the other.
Which do you mean by for the Christian?
Yes, for the Christians. Yes. I mean, they were pretty much wreaked havoc on everything. Yes, especially for Christians. They were very, very bad Caesars. All 10 of them. Now, this we're going to see later on in the book of Revelation playing a big role. There's a number 10 that's going to come up a few times later. We're going to see that. So we are going to get a lot more details on this particular, but we're going to go to it as we go so we can understand it more in depth. This book is not a complicated book. It's very, it has its own outline. It's broken down to various with an outline. It came with an outline, from the chapter 1. So, but there's things that, and it also was written, this was the revelation that was given from the Father to the Son after he returned home to heaven. Now, what I mean by that? Remember, they asked Jesus when he was on earth, how do we know? His disciples asked him, how are we going to know when these days going to happen? When this day is going to come? What are the signs? Well, Jesus says, the signs are, if the wars start against each other, people start hating each other, and so on and so forth. But he said the exact date, no one knows. Not the angels, no one on earth, not even I. Why did he say not even I? This is revelation of Jesus Christ. He should know. When he was in earthly body, remember you asked me earlier how was separation. When he was in his earthly body, he wasn't supposed to know. He wasn't given that information at that time. That's why he said only the Father knows. But when he got home, after his resurrection and his ascension, after the hump, he went home, that's when the Father gave him the detailed revelation. So now, after he got it out, he brought John and he gave him this detail. So it's his revelation. It's revelation of Jesus Christ. But even he had to get it from the Father. See, very little information that we have here. Another thing is that we also have to, this book was written with pictures and signs. You see, because if the description gave a lot of pictures to see people and signs, because pictures and signs do not change in time. Language, if it was only written in language, it will change in time. Its meaning, its representation. But pictures, as we see, we can watch pictures, we can understand what these pictures are. Pictures speak 1,000 words. Pictures will not change for the next 1,000 years. This picture will still represent the same exact thing we're looking at it. But if it was just a writing there, by slang, by so on and so forth, it will change and it might start meaning something else. So the Lord was very careful in giving a lot of description. So things a lot of here are seeing a lot of description is because he was painting a picture. so that will never change. So today, 2,000 years later, we are here not trying to figure out what did he really mean. Well, look at the picture, he says. You see the picture, you understand what I mean. We're going to get to that even more later on because he's going to describe, 10 horns and so on and so forth. It's all pictures of being great. It's easier to say Babylon versus a bad city. It's easier to describe. You give a description of something, people will understand what it represents versus a description of that. Are we following? Are we good on that? Okay. So this is what's happening here. So to convey information across cultures and generations, it's very important. The Lord had to paint a picture here. Another thing, the name Smyrna is very important too. So everything is very important. Why? I mean, listen, it's very, very small, 3-verse chapter. We're going to be here all night. But why? Because it's a lot of information here. The name Smyrna is from the word myrrh. Myrrh which is a fragrance. The word Smyrna comes from the word myrrh. Myrrh is a fragrance. And that fragrance you have to crush to get the fragrance out of it. Just like the church that's crushed. So the word of the city itself represents of the crushing of the church itself. See how beautiful it is? But also, when you crush the myrrh, you get this beautiful fragrance from it. That's what they use in embalming. When somebody dies, they use a lot of myrrh. They crush that, they put that so it doesn't, decay so fast for the smell. It gives a beautiful aroma. Here, the description of it very detailed. This is a church that has been crushed. But from that crushing, from that beautiful fragrance comes out of this church. What I mean by that is that church prevailed. Church stood. Church was the crushed church. It was the persecuted church. But that church stayed strong. And in the end, it had the beautiful smell. And also here, Jesus telling them, hang in there. I am with you always. Because he says, I also suffered just like you. He's reminding the church, you're not alone. Remember, it wasn't that long ago. I was with you. I was there. I suffered everything you're suffering for my name's sake. Everything you're suffering for my name's sake, I suffered. I suffered, he said, just like you. So all the tribulations and the persecutions, he says, you are going through, I was there even till death. And now I'm alive. That's why, if you remember what it says in the beginning, the one who was dead and now is alive. Amen?